What is up, everybody? It is your boy, James Eakes, and I hope you guys are enjoying the Crown Tundra. I also hope you guys are having some better shiny den luck than I, but that's a different salty topic. Today, guys, I'm bringing you guys my first of many competitive guides for the new Crown Tundra Pokemon. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the Legendary Beasts, Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. I'm going to be going over what I think their best sets are, some common strategies they can use, their strengths, their weaknesses, and overall who I think is the best out of the three right now. I've been playing VGC all the way since late 2013, so I have played with Raikou, Entei, and Suicune in 4 different formats, 4 different years of VGC. So I've got a lot of knowledge and stuff that I can share with you guys on these 3 Pokemon. So let's jump on in. First off, let's start with a little short overview of all 3 of them. They all have a base stat total of 580, and they are all single type, so plain electric, plain fire, and plain water. And most importantly of all, with the ability patch in the game, they all have access to Inner Focus, their hidden ability. And this is honestly huge. They previously had Pressure, which is not a very useful ability, but they were still relatively viable Pokemon even with Pressure. And Inner Focus makes it so they are immune to flinching, so no rock side flinch. Bigger than that, no fake out flinch, and they are now immune to Intimidate because Inner Focus was buffed, and that's going to help Entei the most for sure. But I think Inner Focus is a super important topic to talk about with all 3 of these Pokemon, so I wanted to get that out of the way. But with that, let's get into our first beast, Raikou. So Raikou is a plain electric type with very strong special attack and speed with a relatively respectable special defense stat. And Raikou's obvious weaknesses come in its physical defense, a base 75 defense and a base 90 HP. While not too bad, with all the new legendaries in the format right now, you know, it makes that power creep that much stronger. So that is definitely his weakness. And when you're looking at Raikou, you would think that, you know, his main role is going to be a special sweeper, max special attack, max speed, and try to knock everything out. But unfortunately, I think his move pool doesn't really allow that set to be too strong. Like, while he does get a plethora of special attacks and electric attacks, I don't know, the typing of them just isn't that strong. I mean, we've got Aura Sphere, Shadow Ball, Extra Sensory, and the newly received Weather Ball, and Scald, actually. They gave Raikou Scald, which is pretty cool, but they are all relatively low base power moves, and he's not getting same type attack bonus on any of those things, you know? Raikou or Raikou, I usually call it Raikou, I don't know why I'm saying Raikou, but he unfortunately didn't get the TR for Nasty Plot in Sword and Shield. I thought that would have been a sick set, like Protect, Nasty Plot, Thunderbolt, and one of the coverage moves. I think he could have been a real scary threat, but unfortunately he doesn't have that, so we're gonna have to work with what we've got. I think a special sweeper set could work. I just personally don't think it's going to pack enough of a punch, but oddly enough, I could see Raikou working very well as a supportive damage dealer, if you will. You know, having an electric type on your team right now sounds really beneficial with all the flying types. All the Galarian birds are back. It's just an offensive electric is really strong right now, especially with bulky waters all over the place, of course. But I would say that the real selling point of Raikou is its base 115 speed. Extremely fast. Snarl is extremely valuable to have. We saw how good Arcanine was spamming Snarls and, you know, the last formats this year, and Raikou is a ton faster than Arcanine, so we can already see that that's going to be pretty good. And then I was initially excited to try and abuse the dynamic speed with Raikou with Electro Web. Unfortunately, Raikou doesn't get Electro Web, which I was very disappointed about. You could try a Thunder Wave set. Thunder Wave is amazing, but of course 90% accuracy makes it a lot less consistent in helping your team and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. But Raikou does get some really cool support moves, such as Helping Hand is amazing. Eerie Impulse can catch a lot of special attackers off guard if they're going to try and Dynamax in front of you. Roar can surprise shut down a lot of Trick Room users, and Bulldoze to activate some weakness policies. You could even try that, like with Metagross, and then it gets dual screens. You could even try a Light Clay dual screen Raikou. I think that would be pretty sick. But guys, let's get into some example sets for Raikou. the one that we've been sitting on right now, is a pretty standard offensive Raikou set. I personally like Thunderbolt as it is the most consistent damage dealing electric move. Thunder can miss. Volt Switch is fine, but I think you need Volt Switch on a specific team. Like, you're going to be switching out a lot, so you need like bulky things to switch in on and stuff like that. So I think Thunderbolt is the most consistent. I would say Scald is a great new addition to have to help get through those ground types, right? That's Raikou's biggest weakness, and since he doesn't have hidden power ice, he's not gonna be able to hit Landorus with anything better. So I think Scald was a nice buff to Raikou, honestly. So I would definitely recommend running Scald. And then the third move can be any of Shadow Ball, Extra Sensory, Weather Ball, Aura Sphere, or even Snarl like I have on this set. I think Snarl adds like this level of utility. Even if you are an offensive set, you're gonna do pretty good damage with it, with your max special attack and the life orb. And then when you're maxed, it turns into max darkness, which can be an amazing option to, you know, hit something super effective maybe, but then to even lower both opposing Pokemon's special defense. So I think Snarl is really sick, even on the offensive set. And then Life Orb sounds great, of course, but Life Orb is a hotly contested item in VGC 2020. So if you do want to move the Life Orb onto a different Pokemon, or you have it on another Pokemon naturally, I could see Focus Sash working really well. Excuse me, I think Focus Sash could work really well on the offensive Raikou if you want to throw the Life Orb somewhere else. I also think that Expert Belt could help boost up those low base power coverage moves that we were talking about. So Expert Belt could be an option. But guys, let's get into the more supportive Raikou. For the supportive Raikou, I still think Thunderbolt is your best electric move. I think Volt Switch is really cool, but I think it needs a specific team tailored around it. You need lots of bulky Pokemon, lots of things that love to switch in and out, and that could totally work, but I think Thunderbolt is the most consistent. I would 100% have Snarl. It is an amazing support move, especially off of base 115 speed. You're gonna Snarl a lot of threats before they get their big attack off that they want to get, you know? And then I would still recommend Protect, even on the support set. Protect is amazing at stalling out Dynamax, keeping yourself safe while you switch in a better partner, stuff like that. But you could not run Protect if you really don't want to. I'll bring up some suggestions for that, but for that third support move, Helping Hand is a phenomenal move. It surprises a lot of people, and it supports every offensive Pokemon in the game, whether they're physical or special. And then you could even run Roar, for example, to shut down some Trick Roomers. There's lots of Trick Room Pokemon that think you have no way to stop them, and you can really surprise them with Roar. I think Roar is relatively underrated. And then you could even run Bulldoze, Inner Focus, Unfake-Outable Bulldoze to activate some weakness policies of some popular Pokemon, such as Metagross. Metagross is everywhere right now, and Raikou could be a surprise support for Metagross, so I think that's pretty cool. And then finally, if you're feeling pretty dicey, you could go Thunderbolt, Snarl, dual screens, Light Clay, Raikou. I think that's actually pretty sick. Like, no one's gonna really expect it. It's similar to a Regieleki, if you will, but Raikou's bulkier, he's fast enough, and he's got Snarl, which is just a really cool option. For items, once again, there's that Light Clay if you do want to try out some screen sets. I am looking at this, and I think Shuckaberry is probably the best item for the defensive Raikou. He's going to guarantee survive any ground move in the game. All the calcs I looked at, Adamant, Max Quake from Landorus, we're going to live with Shuckaberry. Max Quake from Venusaur and stuff like that isn't even close. So this is going to guarantee that Raikou survives no matter what. But you could also see a case for safety goggles, depending on the support move you're running. You know, Roar safety goggles could be cool. Citrus and Pinch Berries could be nice if you're going for a really bulky set. And yeah, this EV spread that I have right here, you're going to survive that Max Quake from Landorus that I talked about. It's max speed, and then the rest is in special attack. These sets are nothing crazy. I would not, you know, risk my life on these EV spreads. You know, the meta just came out, but feel free to try it out and throw it in the damage calculator and see if you like it. Now let's get into some good teammates for Raikou. I've come up with a few teammates I think that work really well with Raikou, and first off, I think Rillaboom sounds fantastic. When Grassy Surge is up, Earthquake, Bulldoze, and Magnitude do half damage. It is not all ground moves, okay guys, but Earthquake is the big one. That's going to make it so Raikou is effectively not weak to Earthquake anymore, and Earthquake is definitely the most popular ground move, you know, coming from Landorus, who's going to be on a ton of teams coming up. And then Rillaboom also resists ground naturally, making it a great switch in to Raikou. Raikou resists flying, which is a really big attack that people want to hit into Rillaboom. So they've got like a really nice defensive synergy there. And then while Landorus T might be the bane of Raikou, Landorus T is kind of the bane of Landorus T. So I could see Landorus working really well with Raikou. You know, you're afraid of that ground move coming into Raikou and you switch in Landorus. You are completely immune to ground because you are a flying type and you intimidate the opponents. So I think Landorus is a great way to counter Landorus, you know what I'm saying? And then Landorus also does super well against opposing Lightning Rod Pokemon that might be getting in Raikou's way. You know, all the Lightning Rod mons are super weak to ground and no Hidden Power Ice to surprise Landorus anymore. So kind of a buff to Landorus, and I think Raikou Landorus work really well together. Be careful mixing these 3 Pokemon together. This is not a team that I'm building right here. These are just partners that go directly well with Raikou because, of course, if you have Grassy Surge, you're going to weaken your own Landorus's Earthquake, so be aware of that. And then I even put Politoed on here if you do want to try and run some, I know people like Rain, some hyper offensive Raikou set with Thunder for the higher base power, Weather Ball to get that super strong water move. So I've got Politoed on here if you think that you can make Raikou work on a Rain team. And then finally, I have Galarian Zapdos. I think that Defiant and competitive with Raikou are actually really strong, once again, because Raikou's biggest enemy is Landorus. And if they want to bring in Landorus to stop your Raikou, they're going to have to intimidate your partner, such as Zapdos. And then I chose Zapdos. I think all the Defiant Mons, Milotic, you know, even Articuno with competitive could be really good, but I chose Zapdos because I think the typing works really well, and Zapdos is also immune to ground. So if you were to switch Raikou out before they switch in their Intimidator, you're gonna force them to give you the Defiant boost. So I think Zapdos can work super well with Raikou. Next up, we've got my personal favorite beast, Entei. Entei is a plain fire type with no glaring weaknesses in terms of his stats. I mean, he's strong, but not that strong. He's bulky, but not that bulky, and he's fast, but not that fast. This is no insult to Entei though. I think it makes him a great jack of all trades Pokemon. Entei also has access to the insanely powerful move, Sacred Fire. Sacred Fire is a physical fire move, 100 base power, 95 accuracy, and a 50% chance to burn. Him and Ho-Oh are the only Pokemon in the game that have Sacred Fire, so that is a big selling point of Entei as well. I think obviously we need to address the question though of why would I use Entei over Arcanine or Incineroar. Entei does not have access to Intimidate like the other 2 bulky fire types. But what Entei does have is he has the highest base speed out of all the 3 at 100. Arcanine is at 95. Entei is also tied with Incineroar for having the highest base attack out of the 3 at 115. And he's immune to Fake Out and Intimidate. So you can see that Entei is probably going to be packing the biggest punch out of the 3 as well. And then Entei hits really hard with Sacred Fire and doesn't have to worry about taking recoil damage like physical Arcanine and Incineroar do when they use Flare Blitz. They hit really hard, but they're going to take a lot of damage in the process, and Entei doesn't have to worry about that with Sacred Fire. Although Entei doesn't have Intimidate, he can very reliably lower the attack power of opponents through 50% burn Sacred Fire, or just deciding to run Will-O-Wisp off of its base 100 speed. I think that this is also like something that's crazy overlooked as to why Entei might be better in certain situations, because there is so much Defiant and competitive in the format right now. Zapdos Galar and Articuno Galar, competitive and Defiant. Thundurus and Tornadus now have Defiant as their hidden abilities, and they are running all over the place. So Intimidate can bite you in the butt sometimes, you know? And Entei doesn't have to worry about that, but he can still also mitigate physical damage through the Sacred Fire burn and the Will-O-Wisp burn. So I think this is like a super cool, underrated thing that Entei does. You know, Intimidate is amazing, but sometimes it might be better to not have Intimidate. Long story short, I would say that Entei has the upper hand over Arcanine in terms of speed and bulk, and then I would say he has the upper hand over Incineroar with its speed and his damage capabilities. At the cost of Intimidate, of course, and Incineroar having Fake Out and Parting Shot, you know, make them quite different. But let's get into some example Entei sets. I think one of the strongest ways to run Entei is in a fashion similar to Arcanine and Incineroar. Sacred Fire as your main attack, Snarl and Will-O-Wisp for solid disruption to the opponent, and Protect to keep yourself safe. You could opt to not run Protect and try to fit on something like Helping Hand, if you will. I think that that is totally viable. And while this set is very standard, I think it works really well. I'll kind of combine these two sets as the EVs are similar, but as you can see, this is the set I'm talking about right now. But then this next one is very similar, but you're opting to be a more weakness policy activation supporter with something like Metagross. You've got Inner Focus Bulldoze, you've got Helping Hand to boost the power, and then you've got the same thing, Sacred Fire and Protect. I can't stress enough how strong Inner Focus and Bulldoze is in this weakness policy meta. But if we are feeling more ambitious and we do want to take full advantage of Entei's Inner Focus, we could even try a really offensive Entei set like I have here. So the item for this I have is Choice Band, but you can run Life Orb, you can run any kind of offensive set. But here we go, max attack, max speed. With Sacred Fire, we've got some great offensive moves such as Extreme Speed, Stone Edge for opposing fire types, and then Stomping Tantrum for, you know, opposing fire types as well. Ground is just amazing offensive typing, as I'm sure we all know. I mean, it gets like Crunch and Iron Head and stuff like that, but yeah, this is going to be the set that really takes advantage of Inner Focus, not being able to get intimidated. Underbase speed is fast. I feel like this set could do some work, but Entei might not be fast enough and strong enough to deal with the, you know, threats in the Series 7 meta. So for the supportive Entei, I can see, surprise, surprise, Landorus as a good partner for Entei. It is a ground resist, so you can switch it in safely. It has Intimidate. It's very easy to, you know, see why Landorus is so good because he supports everything so well. But when you're using this partnership, make sure to keep in mind that they are both weak to water, and you don't want to have a massive water weakness that Entei and Landorus might start building for your team. Again, I think Rillaboom is great with Entei weakening the Earthquakes yet again, and then obviously Fire Grass, the Fire Water Grass core works extremely well together. So yeah, I think Rillaboom is no surprise to be very good with Entei. And then finally, you could make an extremely strong Fire, Water, Grass core, I think, with Entei. And some grass types, such as Rillaboom. Kartana is really offensive, since Entei is going to be a slightly more supportive option. And then two water types that I think work really well with Entei are, funnily enough, Suicune, the other beast, you know, being a bulky water type. And then even Milotic. You could go Milotic, Kartana, Entei, where Intimidate doesn't affect Entei, it helps Milotic, and then Kartana doesn't want to be intimidated. So I think that they can work really, really well. And then Tapu Fini is an absolutely amazing Pokemon. It pairs well with Entei in terms of typing, but the thing about Fini is that Fini sets up the misty terrain, and Entei wants to burn stuff with Sacred Fire and Will-O-Wisp. So there is a bit of a dyssynergy there. It could get kind of frustrating, but they could work. You'll just have to keep in mind that the burns are going to be harder to get off. So I think Entei is an amazing Pokemon for some Fire, Water, Grass cores. Let's get into Suicune. Lastly, we've got Suicune, the plain water type, who finishes out the trio as the slowest yet bulkiest of the three beasts. It should come as no surprise that bulky water types have always been really strong in VGC, and Suicune is no different. The biggest selling point to Suicune is that it learns Tailwind. A ton of Pokemon lost access to Tailwind in Sword and Shield because it's not a move tutor move anymore. But since Suicune still has it, it makes her that much more viable. Suicune also has a bunch of amazing support attacks such as Icy Wind, Fish for those scald burns, and Snarl, once again, is extremely strong. And then Suicune, I think Suicune carves its niche above Tapu Fini in the form of Tailwind. It gets Snarl, which Tapu Fini doesn't get, and then with Scald, Suicune can actually fish for burns while Tapu Fini can't, because Tapu Fini obviously sets up Misty Terrain. Also, once again, Suicune is technically now immune to Fake Out with the Inner Focus. So this is a immune to Fake Out Tailwinder, which sounds like an amazing support Pokemon to have. Suicune could technically try some offensive set with like Calm Mind, Water Move, Ice Move, and now it gets Air Slash, you know, a surprise max Airstream coming from Suicune, but I don't really think that's where Suicune's strengths lie. Let's get into some Suicune examples. I think all kind of bulky support Pokemon's EV spreads can get pretty complex, so please take mine with a grain of salt. I made this pretty basic supportive Suicune to be able to survive some common grass attacks in the format, such as Adamant, Rillaboom, Miracle Seed, Grassy Glide, Modest, Venusaur, Vine Lash, and this also survives a Jolly Leaf Blade from Kartana. And then with the Wakan Berry, you can safely survive any strong electric move coming at you. Regieleki's not going to be able to take you out. Defiant Thundurus, Max Lightning off of Wild Charge is not going to be able to take you out either with the Wakan Berry. I think that even surviving one turn is super crucial with Suicune because, you know, you get off that crucial Tailwind. For the next 4 turns, you're going to have the doubled speed. Icy Wind, you might get that one Icy Wind off. So I think being able to survive the one turn with Suicune with Wakan Berry is super, super important. And then while if you were to run a Citrus Berry or a Pinch Berry, I think those are great options. But once again, if you do get one-hit KO'd by some crazy strong electric move or grass move, you're not going to be able to support the team, right? Because you're knocked out. So that's just an early thought by me. I think Wakan Berry sounds really cool. And then I have a really high speed investment here. It is so that I outspeed base 120 mons after an Icy Wind. Those are things such as Cinderace, Thundurus, Kartana, everything around that kind of speed tier I'm going to be outspeeding now with Icy Wind and this investment. You can opt to go a slower, bulkier Suicune, but I really feel that Suicune's ability to control the speed is pretty valuable, so this is my example set. Speaking of teammates, to be fair, I think bulky waters work on pretty much any kind of balanced or standard team, but let me find a few good partners. I'm starting to sound like a broken record here, but Landorus, okay? He's immune to electric typing, so he's a great switch in for Suicune. He has Intimidate, great typing. I don't need to explain it enough. And then once again, Rillaboom, I think it's amazing too. You know, it's a safe switch into a lot of things like electric. Rillaboom can help you deal with bulky waters that, you know, Suicune could just bump heads with and be stuck there for a while. And I think that Rillaboom and Landorus are both going to help against the crazy Pokemon like Tapu Koko and Regieleki. They both resist, and they can both hit them super hard. So I think that they are great. And then if we are sticking to a Fire, Water, Grass core, I think once again Kartana could work super well with Suicune. Suicune has Tailwind, obviously, like I said, and Kartana lost the ability for Tailwind because of the move tutor thing. So Suicune getting up a Tailwind for Kartana to start sweeping could be super beneficial. And then I think Suicune, since it's best on a balanced kind of team, Fire, Water, Grass cores are going to be amazing. So I think Heatran could actually work super well with Suicune. I could see the combination of Suicune, Rillaboom, and Heatran. You've got the Grassy Surge to weaken the Earthquake. You've got the speed control in Suicune, which Heatran desperately needs. Heatran only has base 77 speed, but its typing stats are phenomenal besides that. And then, yeah, Heatran could start popping off with the big support from those two. So I think that that could be a really cool 3-man bulk squad: Suicune, Heatran, and Rillaboom. And then once again, I've got Entei there. So I think I explained it in Entei section, but they can work really well together too. So let's wrap things up with some closing thoughts on the Legendary Beasts. I think that they are all quite versatile Pokemon, and they are all being a bit overlooked here in Season 7. If I had to rate them, I'd probably say that Raikou is unfortunately the weakest of the 3. He doesn't do anything spectacularly that another electric Pokemon in the format can't really do. I think Regieleki is kind of filling up the electric space, but I still think he's totally viable. And then honestly, it's pretty hard for me to decide between Entei and Suicune, who I think is the best. I'd probably go with Suicune if I had to choose. I mean, dynamic speed changes make speed control that much more important. Tailwind is just a phenomenal move. And yeah, Icy Wind, Tailwind, Snarl makes her kind of the complete support bulky water package. So guys, all the sets that I had in this video, I'm going to have in the description of this video for you guys to check out, throw it on Showdown, maybe start building it in game for your guys' using pleasure. So guys, I want to thank you guys so much for watching all my stuff here on YouTube, and I hope that you guys learned some valuable things here. If you guys didn't know, I stream full-time on Twitch 5 days a week, so I would love it if you guys came over and hung out with me over there. That is my full-time job, my main source of income. So if you guys went over, dropped a follow, came and hung out with me, I would appreciate that very much. So sub here on YouTube, guys. If you're not already subbed, you know, I'd appreciate that a ton too. I'm going to be coming out with a lot of Crown Tundra stuff, some battles, lots of educational content. That is my goal here on the Eakes Pokemon YouTube, baby. So, guys, with that, I'll see you guys with my next Crown Tundra video, and peace.